James Butera.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for October the 1st, 2024, 7 p.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can all please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth.
Present.
Councilmember Wallace.
Present.
Councilmember Soto.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, all council members and mayor are in attendance.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have closed session announcements. Mr. Santos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For closed session items 6, 8, and 9, there are no reportable actions at this time. For item number 7, liability claim, the council has approved payment of claim number FR 102341 in the amount of $900.
Thank you. Council, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I would, I've been going through the agenda and I didn't get a whole lot of chance to complete it. I would like to consider moving the item number 7 from the consent to the next meeting, please. Yeah, item number 7 on consent. This is the California Consulting.
Is that because you have a question or
I need to look a little deeper into it. I don't know if those questions can be answered. I just need to, if it's okay with the council to bring it back at our next meeting?
are those questions that you're going to meet with someone and ask those questions about or
I need to do a little more research on this one item, please.
okay, council? Is there a well, what do we do here?
It would be a motion and a second to change the agenda, to continue the item to the next meeting.
So, is that a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's a motion to continue this item to the next council meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Semra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-1.
Okay, is there any other changes to the agenda at this time? Seeing none, 7:03, we're moving forward. Next, we have citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item not on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening. Is there any citizen comments on the phone in regards to any items not on the agenda? Anyone on the phone? Coming back to the chamber, is there any citizen comments in the chamber in regards to any items not on the agenda? Seeing none, bringing it back to the dais and closing citizen comments at 7:04. Next, we have awards, presentations, and proclamations. Item number 1, we have a presentation by Assemblywoman Esmeralda Soria from the 27th, with the 27th Assembly District Legislative Update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm so excited to be actually here with you this evening, and happy, I think, what is it, Taco Tuesday day? I just had some tacos from the taco truck outside, and I will say they were good. But anyway, I'm Esmeralda Soria. I am honored to be your assembly member representing you in Sacramento. The district is 27. It incorporates majority of Merced County, parts of Madera, and then we go all the way down to Fresno County. So it's a very, very large district and very rural. And so we represent 14 cities, and one of them obviously includes the city of Livingston. I want to thank you all personally for the partnership that we've had with our office in a variety of different things. Working together, we can accomplish, I think, a lot more. I think it is imperative that that we work together in partnership with not only our local governments, but also our state and federal partners, as well as our community nonprofits and other community organizations. Despite this last year, where we had a tough budget, I will say that I'm proud to have a track record of continuing to deliver real investments to our entire district, and in particular to Merced County. A lot of it because of the conversations that we've had with you, with other stakeholders in our community. I've been in office now 2 years, and so my hope was to come here to just give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what we've been doing, both on the budget and on the policy front, just to get an idea on some of the wins that we've had. We've had some very productive conversations with the city, with the mayor, many of the council members, and also some of the staff, like Jackie from the Parks and Rec Department, about some of the needs that exist. I know that front and center for both of you, for all of you, is the fire station, and making sure that that does not close. We need to make sure, and I'm a strong supporter of figuring out a mechanism, not only a short-term solution, but a long-term solution in partnership with the state to figure out how we can better serve our small rural communities. The issues that you guys are facing here are not unique. We're seeing these similar challenges across these rural communities, especially in my district that I represent. So I want to just let you know that I'm committed to making sure that we keep that fire station open here in the city of Livingston. I also want to highlight, I know another issue that is a top priority is, and that we've had several conversations, is the future park in this community and how we bring the allocated resources to make that happen. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that may be coming down the pipeline where we can work together. And I know that you guys have already done significant work to plan and make sure that you guys are designing something that you can present to the state so that you guys can get first in line. So just to give you guys a little bit of summary, I'm proud that in the first 2 years, I've been able to bring over $400 million investments into the region. I will tell you that when I first got elected, you guys probably saw in the news two of the biggest issues that our communities face. One, down the way in Madera County, we had a closure of a hospital, and then here in Merced County, we had 4,000 people evacuated from the community of Planada. Many of them didn't have jobs, lost everything they had, and so we worked very diligently, especially during the first quarter of my term, to make sure that we brought resources to help these communities. And so I'm proud that Senator Caballero and I actually were able to get $20 million of relief for the Planada residents that were severely impacted by the storms. And then, and right now, they're actually getting that funding at this moment, and then also securing $57 million to reopen the hospital. For this region, even though it's not in this county, what we've seen is that there's been greater impact to hospitals in the neighboring counties. And so what does that mean? That means that we have more impacted emergency rooms, which then jeopardizes the quality of care that our families receive. And so I've been committed to ensure that, especially in the rural communities, whatever hospital infrastructure we have, that we make sure that we keep it, and then also invest in opportunities to continue to build community health clinics to ensure that we have the access to healthcare resources here in our own communities. And on top of that, making sure that we have the workforce to be able to staff those clinics and those hospitals and those places of healthcare that are here in our local community. And so I wanted to share that specifically. I also wanted to just share about some of the policy bills or the legislative proposals that we worked on. So this, in the 2-year session, the governor actually signed 11 of our bills, 8 that I personally authored, and then another 3 that we were able to author as a chair of the Agricultural Committee. Obviously, a very important committee for the Valley and for the region. I've had the opportunity to visit Foster Farms, to visit several farms here in the Livingston area to learn about the challenges that impact our Agricultural Committee. And so we continue to take those issues with us and be the voice of communities like Livingston and the business owners here in our community in Sacramento. The other thing that a couple bills that I want to highlight that the governor just signed on the space of healthcare is AB 3275, which requires our health plans to promptly pay hospitals for the services that they provide. This will help our local hospital budgets be more consistent and reliable, especially in rural communities that have those critical access hospitals. So that's a big win for our entire region because we know that many of our rural hospitals are challenged if they don't get paid on time. The other thing that I'm proud that the governor signed, which is going to be a game changer for the Valley as a whole, even though it's not in Merced County, is AB 2661 in partnership with Westlands Water District in Fresno County. They will have the ability to construct, own, and operate one solar power generation and also the transmission to connect to the grid. We know that we're in a transition period and that we have very ambitious goals, and we have to figure out how we position our region to be able to be a player in this green economy. And I believe that by having these types of infrastructure jobs or infrastructure investments, we will see jobs in our community. And so that's what we're hoping to see. The estimate is that these projects out in the rural agricultural parts of land that are having to be fallowed due to the State Water Sustainability Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, as everyone knows, has forced many of our farmers, unfortunately, to fallow their lands. And so in lieu of that, this will provide them an opportunity to have additional revenues and in turn create jobs for our local residents. And I think that they're estimating about 10,000 jobs over the next 10 years in the region, which is a big, big win for our local community. And so I wanted to highlight those things. And those issues, and I highlight them even though they're not connected specifically to Livingston, they're specific examples of what our local stakeholders brought to us and said, hey, Assemblywoman, we need help on these specific issues. There's opportunities to change state policy, and we want to partner with you. And I said, yes, let's do it. And we were able to take these pieces of legislation through the process onto the governor's desk and get them signed. And I say this because I want to make sure that you guys know that that's the power that we have. That's the ability of partnership and working with your community to identify what are some of those issues that are particular to the city of Livingston, and how can we make sure that we work together with the policymakers in Sacramento to advance policy that is going to continue to bring investments into this community, to uplift this community, so that we all make sure that it is a prosperous community. So I wanted to highlight those things. A couple other things that we worked on related to public safety. I was able to introduce AB 1960, which increased penalties for retail theft. We know that many small businesses have been frustrated with the current laws or law enforcement because of the lack of tools that they have to be able to go and address these retail theft crimes. And so I introduced the bill that supported by our local law enforcement, including our Merced County DA, Nicole Silvera. It was a bill that was part of the Assembly's retail theft package, which aimed to expand criminal penalties for retail theft, increase police and prosecutor tools to combat theft, and help take those down who profit from the smash and grabs and property crimes in our local communities. Very proud this bill actually was signed by the governor a couple weeks ago. And so that's the type of progress that we're making in Sacramento. Two other things that we worked on as well that we should be keeping an eye on, and that is SB 867, which is known as the climate bond. We passed this year, which is putting $10 billion in investments in water infrastructure, wildfire prevention, measures, parks, and smart agricultural development. And all of these investments are part of what is on this November ballot. I will say that I was proud to be part of the negotiating team, which worked together to advocate for different buckets of funding and investments that would benefit our region specifically the small rural communities. And so what I want to highlight a couple things. The bill contains $100 million for urban greening, which includes investments that support expanded urban greening programs, creating of green recreational parks and green schoolyards in park communities. That's something that the city of Livingston can benefit from if this measure is approved. In addition, there's also an additional $200 million for creation, expansion, and renovation of safe neighborhood parks, and again, park poor neighborhoods. So another source of funding. And then the bond also includes $20 million in grants to support research and educational institutions, a combination of things like museums in local communities, geological heritage sites. In some communities there's zoos or aquariums, so those types of attractions if communities want to invest in those types of things. The other thing that we also were able to ensure that we passed and will be also part of the November ballot, AB 847. This is a measure that I co-author with one of my colleagues, which is $10 billion school facility investments. And this is also very important because a lot of in our small communities, and while you guys are not the Board of Education or the Board of Education here for the schools in Livingston, it is important that we support our schools because those are the future residents of our community, the workforce in our community, and so making sure that our schools have the adequate facilities and resources is extremely imperative for the well-being and the long-term sustainability of our small cities. And so this $10 billion bond includes funding for rural districts that cannot provide matching dollars. And this was a big win because we know in some poorer communities that may not be able to pass their own tax measures, the state will actually fund them at 100%. And that is a big win, again, for the small rural communities that may not have the tax base, that may not have the local resources to be able to do the rehab or modernization of the public schools. And so we're very excited that communities like the schools here in the city of Livingston can take advantage of these these dollars if they're made available after November. And so we're excited about that. And then just lastly, I wanted to make sure that you guys know I've been working with not just the city of Livingston, but communities across the district to hear about the specific concerns that you all have in terms of issues that we need to address. And so I know one issue has been the issue of housing. My staff has been in touch with your team to kind of hear directly. Every local community has their unique challenges, but trying to figure out what are some of those common challenges that we can tackle together that maybe the state can step in and be helpful with. The other issue, as I mentioned, is public safety resources for small communities. Many of our small cities can't afford to build these very expensive fire stations or police stations. And I will say that's one of the things that I was very proud in the last couple years. We were able to bring, $4 million for the city of Merced for a new fire station. Unfortunately, at the time when the budget was a lot healthier, you guys didn't have the issue of the imminent closure of that fire station. Otherwise, that probably would have been a good time to do a budget request. That's been more in the this last year. But there are opportunities that we can work on together to make sure that if the resources can't come from the local community, maybe we're talking about how we create some type of program, just like the federal government has the SAFER grant, specifically for our fire departments to hire personnel, that we also create maybe a type of program that will help support the small rural communities, one, that can't build the facilities, or two, have enough resources to be able to have the adequate personnel to appropriately staff these departments. And so those are some of the things that I'm thinking about for next year. But the goal is to spend the next few months before we go back into legislative session next year to hear directly from you what are some of the other issues of challenges that you guys have. We've heard some of the groundwater challenges that many communities across the region have. We just had a public joint hearing on this particular issue where many potential solutions came up that we can work on together that could benefit communities like Livingston. And so I remain very hopeful that in partnership we can help continue making the city of Livingston the great city that it is, and that we can work together to bring additional resources, not just to the entire region, but specifically here to the city of Livingston. And that is all I have for you.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, for making the time to come and do your presentation tonight. And I also want to thank you for for visiting the city of Livingston during our Sweet Potato Festival.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that.
I saw you there on Sunday with some of your staff, learning about the Sweet Potato Festival and some of the activities that we had. I know that maybe next time we need to plan to have someone from your staff participate in the Lucha Libre. Yeah, right? Along
Seems
with
a little dangerous, I don't know.
But and you being here today, and I know that I had the opportunity to meet multiple times with your staff and yourself, and they're always very welcoming. They're very open to listen to our concerns, even though a lot of times we're probably not the only ones reaching out to them. But we do have a future meeting scheduled with a couple of your staff members to continue having those conversations in regards to some of our water and housing concerns.
Yeah, and we're committed to continuing the dialogue to find what are some of the policy solutions or even the regulatory challenges that we have to address those challenges that you guys have in particular here in the city.
Yes, and I'm definitely looking forward to future and partnerships. And I'm sure that if we get to present 5 projects, at least one or two could be potentially the ones where we can get accomplished and finalized here in the city of Livingston. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? First of all, Assemblywoman Soria, thank you very much. I think I've seen you a lot here, not only the last few days, but over the course of a couple of years. You've been very easy, your staff's been very easy to contact. They've always been responsive, so we do appreciate that. And second is, I know there's going to be a presentation, and thank you for your comments on the fire station, which is, fire service is very important to the community, is another big complaint we get from our folks, and I know it's not under where you're at, it's under the CPUC, is they're finding it very difficult that one side of the street you have the PG&E, on their side you have MID, and PG&E side is paying 50 cents a kilowatt, other side is paying 21 cents a kilowatt, and they can't understand why. And it seems like, according to what I'm hearing, is no matter when PG&E goes before CPUC, there's never a denial. It's always, let's go, let's go. And now they're doing this propaganda stuff for themselves, but they're putting that onto the rates. Why isn't that coming out of the investors? Why is that being charged to the ratepayers and not the people that, the shareholders? Something has to be done. Now they're going to give us a presentation on some sort of what they call it, affordability thing. If you got low income, you're going to get care money or something, or maybe if you're lucky, maybe you fall into the federal one. But those numbers don't adjust very quickly. Even at somebody making $20 an hour, which is minimum wage, more and more people are falling off of that care program, and they're having to pay that 50 cents. And this nonsense we're going to get here in a few minutes, it's not going to help anybody. I don't know what you folks can do. I understand the CPUC is appointed by the governor and so forth. It's a commission, but there's something needs to be done by our assembly and the Senate in saying, ask the tough question, how can one organization providing electricity to you can be charged at 20-some cents a kilowatt, where it doesn't even make sense to even go solar panels? On the other side, if you're poor, you're going to get it, but if you're not that rich, you can't even afford solar panels. So you end up having to be stuck. So I don't know, is there something that can be done, or what can be done about these rates? And I know they're going to come in here. There's 3 more raises. They're going to be rate increases that they're coming forward.
Yeah, thank you for that. You're not wrong. There's frustration across this region because of how hot it gets or how cold it gets during the winter about our energy rates. And so, interestingly enough, earlier today, I was on the phone with some of the folks from PG&E, and we're having conversations. What are some of the things that we can do legislatively to be able to look at the affordability crisis that we have? And so while the CPUC does have jurisdiction about setting of the rate setting, the legislature obviously can have oversight. And so I think that there might be an opportunity this legislative session to tackle the affordability issue as it relates to energy. And so that's one of the things that I'm interested in working with and figuring out what are some solutions, what are some of the things that are included in the rate that maybe should not be paid by the ratepayers. And so we're happy to have discussions with you guys if there's specific things that you guys are concerned with, but also, we'll allow our PG&E folks that are here to, answer, I think, those questions. But I think that there will be an opportunity next year, as this is becoming a much more common frustration amongst residents across the state, especially in areas that are like our region.
And another suggestion might be to do what we did some years ago with Mount Bell. Break them up into little pieces, let the local jurisdiction, local MID and Modesto, Turlock, whoever, local ones take over. That's the only way to teach these guys a lesson. I'm sorry, but it's just unaffordable for the people, especially like you said, in the summer when it's 110 outside, and now you're trying to decide, should I buy food, or what am I going to do with PG&E, or do I have the family suffer at 90 degrees or whatever it's going to be? It just becomes a very troublesome for some people, especially with people that are in poor health.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that.
Thank you. Council, is there any other comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you for all you're doing in the Senate, or in the Assembly. You're doing a great job, and thanks for visiting us in our little city here, and had a nice chat with you on Sunday, walking through the sweet potato festival.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
Council, anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you, Assemblywoman, for coming here, everything you've done. I didn't see you on Sunday because I was there Saturday, but thank you for showing up and everything you've done for this community. We really appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you, and we will be in touch.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have item number 2. We have a presentation by Nathan Alonso, Local Government Affairs for Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Presentation on affordability and fixed charge update.
Well, good evening, Mayor Moran, Chris, Council, Anthony from Firebaugh. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Nathan Alonso, your local government affairs representative for Pacific Gas and Electric. And I think I got a little bit of an introduction just a few minutes ago, so we'll go ahead and jump right in to this affordability presentation. So, in continuing a little bit on what Councilmember Sammer was talking about, which is over the course of the last decade or 12 years, we have seen a significant increase in residential electric or utility rates. And through that, we have been in constant communication with the legislature, our regulators, and the administration, because as you said, council member, the gubernatorial administration appoints our regulators at the California Public Utilities Commission. So all forces came into the room and said, what can we do to start creating meaningful either rate reform or changes, or start rolling things off bills to create a substantial savings at the residential electric or utility level to help bring some needed rate relief to families, especially low-income families in areas that are affected the most by the ever-changing climate and by the climate that the region has, which is here in the Central Valley. So one of the first strategies that this group came up with is what was called the fixed charge. So the income graduated fixed charge was passed in the budget in 2022. And it mandated that by March of this year, the CPUC issue a proposed decision on a fixed charge, and that the fixed charge have at least 3 different income tiers, with the goal of helping lower by at least double digits residential utility bills. So the proposal was released in March. It was adopted in May, and here's what it looks like. Today, there are 2 different costs that go into your price per kilowatt hour. The way that it works today is that the cost to build, maintain, and innovate the grid and how much you use, or the volume that you use, your volumetric charge, is bundled into one price per kilowatt hour. The way that it works today, if you're on the basic rate plan, your price per kilowatt hour is 43 cents. If you're on CARE, your price is 29 cents. What the income graduated fixed charge proposal looks to do is separate those charges and define that hard cost to build, maintain, and innovate the grid, to define that into those 3 income tiers, and also bring down your overall volumetric charge by 7 cents. So if you're on CARE and you're paying 29 cents a kilowatt hour, 7 cent savings that goes into effect next year, 25% savings on your volumetric rate. And this is what the 3 tiers look like. If you're on CARE, your fixed charge will be $6 a month. If you're on FIRA, which is another income qualified program, it's $12, and everybody else is $24.15. $24.15 is the number that the CPUC approved after looking at how much other utilities on the publicly owned side are charging for their fixed charge. Some up in Northern California that are tiny utilities are charging as little as $6. Other larger publicly owned utilities down in Southern California and Riverside are charging as much as $87. They felt that $24.15 was a good place for PG&E to begin this process, given the diversity both geographically, climate-wise, and risk-wise of all of the hundreds or all of the millions of customers that PG&E serves. So an average family will see a savings of at least $12 a month with income graduated fixed charge. Councilmember Samra, I know that when you're talking about a multi-$100 utility bill, $12 savings isn't a whole lot. But as we spoke at the beginning of the presentation, this is one step, the first step, or a meaningful step, to try to start reforming the bill or doing what we can to begin to pare things back that may not need to be on it anymore. So in the affordability update, in June, we saw a decrease in residential bills by 9%, and that was due to the fact that we had recovered the costs of the storm seasons of 2021 and 2022. As you recall, during years 21 and 22, we got absolutely walloped by the weather. We had something like 11 atmospheric rivers in 2022 and significant other weather challenges that when you see the blue bucket trucks rolling and they're having to repair and rebuild the grid after a major storm, all of that costs a significant amount of money, and all of that gets recovered in rates. So after all of those costs were recovered in rates, we were able to immediately roll that charge off the bill, creating those 9% savings starting July 1st. This is important, especially here in the Central Valley, because July, we had 27 days over 100 degrees. So when folks are using quite a bit of electricity, it's imperative that the price of the electricity that they're using comes down. So one thing that we've been doing throughout the region and that we are doing in communities like Livingston is making sure that we are attending community events and collaborating with community organizations to enroll as many folks as we can that are eligible to be on CARE and FARA, which are income qualified programs, to be on those programs so that they can realize those 20% savings or at least the 18% savings. We have a significant portion of the city here and the county that, because of median household income, is eligible to be on CARE and FARA, and we want to make sure that we're capturing as many of those as we can. So these are some of the financial assistance programs that exist. A couple that I would like to call specific attention to are REACH and LIHEAP. REACH and LIHEAP help customers that are behind on their residential bills and are looking to catch up. So it goes back and it looks at the last payment that customers made, and in the case of REACH, it triple matches whatever the last payment was with the goal of eliminating any outstanding balance. Same with LIHEAP, and those two programs, we collaborate with community-based organizations either at the city level or the county level to help administer those programs. Those aren't directly administered by PG&E in order to help get some relief to folks who are in a specific pinch when it comes to their utility bill. So what I wanted to go over with all of you, and I wish Esmeralda was still here, my friend, is understanding your bill. So we talk about the rising utility rates, and there's always the question of, what are you guys doing with all the money? You hear about the profits at PG&E and some of the other items. I'd like to address both of those issues here with you tonight. So in understanding how the bill breaks down, 54 cents go towards generation, operations, and maintenance. When you talk about what we as a utility make on the service, it's about 9.6 cents, or a little bit under a dime out of that dollar, is our authorized rate of return determined by the California Public Utilities Commission. A nickel out of the dollar goes towards paying taxes. Some of those taxes are paid here at the city level through regular annual tax, but also a franchise fee that we pay in order to serve. But the thing that I'd like to draw your attention to, and it's something that Esmeralda went over, is about a third of your overall bill is state mandates. And what we are looking to do over the course of the next couple of years is collaborate with legislators that are willing to work with us and represent areas that have significant utility affordability challenges like Livingston, to come up with legislation that allows us to take some of the stuff that's in the state mandate portion of the bill off the bill and find ways for us to be able to finance it directly so that customers can realize those immediate savings. Like one of the things that we did this year is some legislation was passed that would allow us to securitize, or in layman's terms, bond measure out the monies necessary for us to do vegetation management. So if we go out and we bond for those dollars, we can roll the cost of that directly off your bill, and that probably is about a $16 to $18 savings. So the first cost savings that we talked about was $12, but if you start snowballing it with $12 here, $18 there, in finding ways to either legacy out, reform and reduce, or completely eliminate some of these mandated programs, it can realize real savings really quick. A couple of items that I do want to draw your attention to that are items that are part of that 31 cents, like I said, is vegetation management. About 10% of your average bill is vegetation management, which is trimming trees, cutting branches, hauling wood in high wildfire threat areas. And I'm sure that that can be frustrating for a community like this, which is not in a high fire threat area. But the second bullet point there is something that's relevant to this community and many communities throughout our region, which is 6% of customers' bills go towards subsidizing or throwing into that pot that subsidizes CARE and FIRA customers. But then number three, which is, I think, a significant and relevant item here for our region, given our median household income challenges, is that every month, if you don't have solar, you are paying $35 on your bill to subsidize those that do. So what we see is that many of our CARE and FIRA customers and our low-income customers obviously can't afford a solar array on their home, but they're having to pay $35 every month to subsidize those that can't afford it and do have residential rooftop solar. So all in all, we're looking to find reform around areas like that net energy metering incentive to provide relief, because the folks that are paying for the subsidization of rooftop solar are the folks that can least afford to do so. We're looking for ways to roll that 10% of vegetation management off your bill, us go out into the market, borrow the money, and pay for it ourselves, and looking for ways to reform some of the other ways that that we fund those state-mandated programs. So that was a quick piece on how the dollar is spent. Now, I'm sure that we want to address the $22 billion in profits this last year. So that was based off of a number of reforms and efficiencies that the company has made over the course of the last several years. That a portion of it is through our authorized rate of return. So I do want to say that out of the $22 billion in profits, $21 billion of that was taken and invested back into the business. So what does that mean? That instead of ratepayers having to pay for things like new substations or some new infrastructure to conform with the state's 100% electric or renewable targets, shareholders paid for that. You probably also saw that with the $1 billion that I didn't mention, that was paid out in dividends to shareholders. So what that equated to was a return per share of a penny. And I would point out that shareholders aren't, folks out in Wall Street or something like that. Our largest shareholders are retirement systems. The retirement system's largest investors are pension funds, and two of the largest pension funds in the world are STRS and PERS. So when we perform in a way that we're able to pay out a dividend, it goes and it benefits our investors, which are retirement systems, which are pension systems, which are friends and neighbors who are firefighters, public employees, police officers. And for us, it is important that we are doing everything that we can to be a viable and financially responsible business, because the better that we get on that front, the more cost-effective and cheaper that we can go out into the market and borrow money, which then creates even more savings for ratepayers and investors, and hopefully allows us to continue snowballing savings onto the bills to hopefully create even more meaningful rate reduction and bill reduction for our customers. So that's the formal presentation, but I would love to answer and address any questions or comments that you may have.
Mr. Alonso, thank you very much for your presentation. Do you guys know, or does PG&E normally go out into the communities and participate in informational fairs or community events, sharing information? I was just thinking, just because we had a 3-day weekend festival here in Livingston, and maybe that could, if that is the case, then that would have been a good opportunity for the office to be out here and, you know, kind of sharing probably some of the new programs that you guys have going on, or vice versa. But if not,
We do, and
Yeah.
we'd be happy to collaborate with Chris and the team in order to get some information on what events are coming up here, and we can get some of our CSOs, our customer service officers, out here, bilingual, and out here in the community to address questions and then enroll people in programs on the spot.
yeah. So probably Mr. Lopez would end up referring you to Ms. Jackie Benoit on the back. She is the big boss lady here in the city of Livingston, and she's responsible for every event that happens in the city. So that would be your best contact, because Mr. Lopez doesn't even know what's going on with you know, he has to go to her. So in regards to events. So, but, you know, we do have some events coming up in the month of October. Then we have like different events in December, and just different things throughout. You know, I'm not asking like, it will be almost impossible to be out here every single time. But I think probably for like, you know, 2 or 3 main events where we attract a big part of the community, I think that would be a good opportunity to be able to share some of that information as well.
Absolutely, and I can only lament that we weren't here for the Sweet Potato Festival.
All right. Well, I know you're probably going to compromise yourself to be here at least 3 times a year from now on.
Well, I'll take that back to the CSO team so that we can make that commitment and get folks here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, Mr. Alonso, I want you to know that I don't hold you personally responsible. You're not the decision maker. It takes courage to come before folks and have to defend something that you're not making decisions on. You're just the person passing on the information. Now, when you stated that the $35 of the bill is due to net metering, is that under NEM 1 or under NEM 3? Are they all equal to $35? Because
It's the most current one, M3.
it's under NEM 3, so under NEM 1, it's actually higher.
I don't know that it was higher under NEM 1, but I do know that $35 is current to NEM 3.
Yeah, because under NEM 3, the reimbursement, well, I don't want to call it reimbursement, but net metering.
The subsidization of it is
Yes,
significantly lower.
It is a lot lower than
Yeah.
NEM 1. That's what I was saying. And second, you mentioned earlier the state mandated that there be more sturdy poles and all that. It troubles me, a organization as large and as PG&E, why was there so much lack of infrastructure investment over the years? Obviously, a lot of these fires started because trees aren't being trimmed, poles are weak. That's the reason you have most of these fires. And when that happened due to the lack of maintenance and lack of upgrades of PG&E, it's the ratepayers having to pay for your mistakes. So why was that way?
Well, I will say that we fully took responsibility and learned from the mistakes that we made during catastrophic wildfires. And because we took the stance that catastrophic wildfires shall stop, is why you have seen a lot of these wildfire reduction programs and these significant efforts. But these aren't just to address some of those wildfires that you've talked about. This is to safeguard the grid for what is an ever-changing environment with a hotter environment and risk ever increasing due to a number of factors. But no, I get what you're saying. I will say that shareholders bore a brunt of the financial responsibility and accountability of what you pointed out. But yeah, we are continuing to improve, but also operate in a way that reduces that wildfire risk so that what we saw in the past won't happen again.
So let me get this straight. All those decisions were made. Are you saying the shareholders paid for that or the ratepayers? I thought it was the ratepayers that when PG&E went before CBE says, we have to do this, we're sorry, and there were some criminal charges. I'm sure you know all that. I don't want to. But at the end, it was the ratepayers that bore the cost, not the shareholders. Am I wrong in that?
I would have to go back and be able to
I don't believe
definitively
I don't
answer
believe
your
the
questions.
shareholders paid for that. I believe the ratepayers paid for that.
So I do know that there is a Victims Wildfire Fund that is shareholder funded, but as to the totality of who paid for what, I'm not going to put myself in a situation or in a position to answer it definitively. I'd go back and.
No, I wouldn't put you in that situation. No, but the question, what troubles me is PG&E is more than willing to charge a larger customer lower rates, but yet how are they able to charge a larger customer lower rates, but end up sticking it to mom and pop that are just trying to feed their family? How can you, so who's subsidizing who? I mean, there's a minimum cost. If you can deliver energy to a larger customer at whatever, why can't you deliver that to the family at the end?
So I can follow back up through Chris
You know
and
what?
through the council
Tell
with.
you what.
I was going to say,
Yeah, I'll tell you
Mr.
what, Mr. Alonso, I know you can't answer those questions. I'll get with you, maybe you can give us a response, and I don't want to put you in the situation.
No,
Thank
definitely,
you very
yeah.
much for coming, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. I know it's not you, and again, I applaud your courage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? I think Mr. Gruppol just asked everything and beyond, but I'm just wondering, anything else? All right, well, I do want to thank you for visiting us and just providing an update. Feel free to reach out again if you have any more updates to share with the community, and more than welcome to connect with, her name is Jackie Benoit. She is the superintendent for the recreation department, and she can also probably share the calendar for the community events.
You got it. I made friends here tonight. I'm coming back.
All right.
But a huge word of appreciation to Chris, who is always very responsive, very open, and participates in discussions with us, to Anthony and his team in Public Works, and to you, Mr. Mayor, for your collaboration and help in getting the voice of this community across to leadership at PG&E, and ultimately speaking on behalf of your residents to our regulators. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you for reaching out as well, and for making time to be able to meet in a couple of locations, and at the same time sharing some of our concerns.
Absolutely.
Next time I'll bring more from one of my colleagues, and just to add to the list. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good night.
Mayor, if I could just add
Yes,
one
go ahead.
thing. I really want to thank Nathan. When we've had issues, poles falling, the responsiveness from Nathan, doesn't matter if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, 10, 11 o'clock at night, Nathan's been absolutely incredible. He's a real asset to have, and I've worked with many of Nathan's colleagues in Southern California and Northern California, and I have to say Nathan's probably one of the most responsive ones that I've ever worked for with a utility, so thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Chris. I do want to clarify, I'm not built to be up on the polls. probably taller, thinner guys or gals, but thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Next, we have announcements and reports. Mr. Supervisor Rodrigo Espinosa.
First, I want to thank Nathan also for coming in. Appreciate it. Good evening, Council. I also want to thank Assembly Member Esmeralda Soria for coming today and the presentation, and also for the Sweet Potato Festival as well. Well, I just want to say that I attended an Aleo Policy Institute Emergency Preparedness in Houston, Texas on the 19th and 20th of September. Pretty much we did it, in 23 when we had the Planara disaster and the flooding. So, I learned a lot, so I wanted to go and attend, and I learned a lot more, so I have plenty to talk about in the future as well. Also, we approved the budget for 2024-2025 in Merced County, and with that, we approved the agreement with one of the largest unions that we have, which is AFSCME. I know we were back and forth for a while, and I'm just glad to state that they approved, and during the board meeting last Tuesday, we approved their agreement as well. And we also extended the fire station closes for Livingston and others until December 31st. Sadly to say, now that we didn't receive the SAFER grants. And so with that, we got to work hard to pass Measure L, to ask the citizens to support Measure L. Hay que apoyar la Measure L aquí en el pueblo para apoyar a los bomberos y a la seguridad pública. Also today we had a housing authority interviews. The housing, as you know, the housing authority is the one that goes and there's a board that manages all the housing authority apartments around the county. So we, the board of supervisors, we interview with the chair and the vice chair. I wasn't able to be there, but one of the other supervisors was stepped into to the interview. So that was for one position. So there's 5 board members also. It has board meetings on the third Tuesday at noon, every third Tuesday of the month in Merced, in South Merced. In case there's any questions and anybody wants more information, I'd be happy to support and support with that. I also attended a Youth Leadership Institute in grand opening in South Merced. Gentleman, what's his name? Jesse Ornelas is one of the leaders there, and so that group was able to get a grant through Behavioral Health of Merced County, and the Board of Supervisors, we approved that, and so they are kickstarting their downtown center for the youth, and so they'll be able to work with workforce investment and obtaining trade experience, attend to their behavioral health needs and many other services. So I'll be happy to support that as well. I give them a certificate as well today for the leadership. I know Esmeralda sent for representatives to be there as well as other electeds. So I'm happy to have that, and I think they'll be working with other nonprofits and also to obtain more grants in the future so they can grow, and our youth will be able to have a place where they can go and obtain the services, whether it's mental health, try to get a job, just relax, and get together with other young people and and help themselves. So I'm just happy with that. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer from you guys or the public.
Council, any questions? All right.
If you could,
Thank you very much.
excuse me. Mayor,
Yes.
Supervisor, I have a question for you. Oh, okay. I was just wondering because the residents were inquiring about your stance on the 2 positions that you're running for. they just wanted clarification as to whether this is you trying to stay in power, sort of like an ego trip, but they were trying to decide how you can run for two positions at the same time, and how your choice of choosing to run and which, if elected for any, how would that work, was their question. Perfect. I know you don't want to answer questions from me.
All right, next we have city staff announcements and reports. Do we have any? I don't see any, no.
No staff tonight, Mayor.
City manager announcements and reports?
Mayor, just a couple of them. As you know, the council approved an education informative information sharing to the community. So the community should be seeing Facebook posts, social media posts that are going out to the community. We will be going live with another video, or with a video, in the next couple of days related to Measure L, the city's Measure L. As the supervisor mentioned, it doesn't appear as if Merced County received the SAFER grant, so it's really important that voters become informed with what Measure L is all about. So just be on the lookout for those items that will be leaving the city. And then one final thing, all utility payers, all members of residents that get water utilities from the city should be receiving an insert from the city, again, providing information related to what Measure L is all about. So be on the lookout for that. That should be arriving in your utility bills in the near term, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have city council members' announcements and reports. Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jackie for an outstanding job on the Sweet Potato Festival. I was there Saturday, walked around for quite a while. Everything just looked great. The only minor concern is the backup getting in the lines. There was probably 100 people. And that's, I don't know if there's a way to do 2 lines coming in. I'm just not sure, but 100 people waiting in the heat was, you know, I was probably about number 50, but it's just, that was the only concern. I liked how the vendors weren't over on the grass. You had so many amusements. It's just, you did an outstanding job. That's all I can say. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Roth?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Saturday, I attended the alumni reunion at Memorial Park. Everyone involved, Diane Dallas did a wonderful job, Peasy, Councilmember Soto. It was my first experience there. I'm not a graduate from Livingston High School. I'm a transplant here, but I think it was a great thing for the community and all the alums. Secondly, Saturday and Sunday, I attended the Sweet Potato Festival. Jackie, you staff, you and Tony and all staff, Public Works and all involved, you guys did a great job. Good time over there this year. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Soto?
I just want to announce that the 100th celebration for Livingston High School will be this upcoming 12th and 13th over the weekend, so hopefully many of you are out on your sidewalks down Main Street to see the special festivities that will be held by the Livingston High School. And it's our 100th year, Livingston High School, so thank you.
Mr. Samra?
I think I've said enough. Nothing out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few things. Red Cross actually was in town first during last week, talking to residents and invited them to participate, and working along with the fire department to install or replace fire alarms in their homes. And then they came back on Saturday to actually physically go and replace or install new fire or smoke alarms smoke alarms. So I do want to say thank you to the fire department for participating and making that effort, and to Red Cross for, and I know that we had that conversation probably about 3-4 months ago, and, you know, it was just, they were willing to come to Livingston, and they were here on Saturday. Unfortunately, I was initially planning to be there on Saturday. I wasn't, because I ended up traveling to Southern California Friday night, early Saturday morning, and I was not able to make it back until later that day. But thank you for everyone that participated in the what was it called? What was the title of it? Of the smoke? Sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. Yes. So thank you for creating that partnership. It's always very helpful for the community. Sweet Potato Festival, I was there on Friday and Sunday. You know, I remember a couple years ago when, after COVID, I think it was 2 years ago, and initially when I spoke to Jackie, and you know, and the original plan was only for Saturday and Sunday, and after brainstorming with Jackie and the idea of just doing something small on a Friday, skateboarders for kids, and you know, do a giveaway with 20 skateboards. And you know, then later that little event became a full-fledged Friday event. And this last Friday, you know, just I think that was probably the most well-attended Fridays I've seen in a while. And perfect weather, great car show, just a lot of different things. The lucha libre, it's a big thing for the, you know, for even the adults. You know, it's just how the luchadores, they kind of integrate themselves into the stands and stuff like that, and they just make it fun. And the DJ, the music, and you know, just the food, it was great. Saturday I was not able to be there. Sunday, once again, you know, just really looking forward to. I had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. I was distributing some of the Measure L flyers, and informing the community if they knew about it. Some had heard about it, but I don't think everyone knew a lot of the details. And it was to no surprise that many residents get confused with the sales tax and the property tax. The very vast majority of the people that I talked to, they were looking at it as a property tax. So I explained that it was not a property tax, two different things, sales tax and how it would benefit. You know, what would happen potentially if we don't approve that, and you know, just different scenarios. So they had a lot of questions, and really out of the 40, 50 people that I talked to, at least only one was not too sure, but it was not a definite no. You know, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna look more into it. I'm gonna get more information and just really educate myself. So I mean, it looks good, but what I noticed was that a lot of the people that I talked to, they're not informed or educated about it. So yes, even though we're gonna send out that they're gonna receive a flyer in the mail, but you know, I mean, I'm one of those that gets a lot of junk mail. I probably don't even see it until probably like once a week, and most of the junk mail I just hardly ever go through it. But I'm sure there's many more like myself that are probably going to miss it, along with all the other junk mail, and probably not going to be able to read it, even though it is in Spanish and English. So it's going to take all of us, and plus, to be able to talk to people and be able to inform them. And one of the things that I ask is like, please, even though I already talked to you, please try to talk to your neighbors. Try and talk to the other family members that you know in the city of Livingston, because you know, it's just not a very good side to not to considering not having a fire station here in the city. So that was very good. On Sunday. And then I will be also using some of the flyers as, when I'm canvassing, just knocking the doors, and hopefully we get to talk to a lot of people. If not, we'll get to leave one at the door. And once again, Jackie and your whole entire team of, I don't know how many people you have in that office, doing all of the work to be able to make that Sweet Potato Festival happen. It was great. I talked, there. Also, one of the big things about talking to people on Sunday was finding out where they were from, because, are you from Livingston? It's like, well, if you are, then this is for you. But probably half of the people that I approached were from out of town, from Los Banos, a lot of people from Merced and Nahuatl, some from Delhi, Turlock, a few from cities in Modesto. So, and I asked, some of them, how do you find out? Social media. Very few, I used to live here and I used to come in, so they're aware of the festival. But, my point is that thanks to that, to the work that you guys have been doing, is we have a lot of people from outside. So I would say, honestly, about half of the people that I approach were not currently residents of Livingston. So that is a great job, whatever it is and everything else that you guys been doing, it's working, and maybe we just got to continue doing that work. So I really appreciate the work and then all of the volunteers. There was a lot of volunteers. 50? Yeah, a lot of volunteers. So, it's just not the people that are normally there, but all of the extra volunteers to be able to make it happen. And when I was in line on Friday to get in, I was talking to someone and said, well, Mr. Moran, aren't you the mayor? I'm like, yes. And then she asked, it's like, well, why are you in line? I'm like, well, because why not? It's like, we're like, well, don't you have like just go in, and probably I could, if I ask, I could probably get in, like other people, but I'd rather make a line, pay my $1, pay my parking, and just do it like everybody else. But it was just a very interesting conversation. It was just, okay, makes sense. And, we started other conversations about Measure L and stuff like that. But anyway, something that I just needed to share, and hopefully it's always like that. And then also on Thursday, I attended Cal City's division meeting in Chowchilla. And one of the big things about that meeting was the election of the new board. And so the new board changed for the next coming year. That was on Thursday. And yes, a reminder for somebody already mentioned it, the Centennial Celebration, October 12th, for the Livingston High School. And it's going to be in the morning. There's going to be a car show. They're hoping to get at least 100 entries in the car show. Hopefully they get them all. And there's going to be an opportunity to go inside the school, and there's going to be groups going around and visiting the different areas of the school for people that haven't been there for a while. But it's going to start. Everything's going to start at 8 in the morning on Saturday. So it's not going to be an evening thing. It's going to be a morning event. So just if they haven't looked at the time, just to make sure they're there in the morning, not in the evening. But that's it for me. Thank you very much. Next, we have receive and file. Item number 3, the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2022-2023. And who's going to take that?
James, are you on the phone?
Yep. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. So yeah, thank you all. Council Christopher, putting us into this meeting tonight. So my name's James Butera, Senior Manager with LSL CPAs. and I oversee the day-to-day audit and financial statement issuance for the city of Livingston. So tonight we'll kind of just quickly run through the results of the fiscal year 23 report that we're filing, just kind of go over those highlights, answer any questions, and get right into it. So the next slide just kind of shows our team. So Brandon Young, who is a partner, and we work hand in hand to facilitate an efficient, smooth audit and financial statement issuance. And, it wasn't too long ago, mid-March of this year, that we were presenting the 2022 financials and emphasizing the need to kind of catch up and sort of get these reports issued a little more timely. So our goal at that time for fiscal year 23 was to issue by September, and the audit report for this 2023 year is dated September 12th. So, just definitely wanted to give a testament to the finance team over there at the city, being willing to work some long hours and, utilizing internal, external resources as necessary, to meet that goal. So definitely appreciate the hard work and feel good that we kind of met that goal. So the next slide kind of just touches on kind of the scope of the engagement for fiscal year 2023. So we were engaged by the city to perform the financial statement audit and single audit for the 2023 year. And that's in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. And so the single audit will kind of depend on the dollar value of federal expenditures spent during that year. So if the city spends $750,000 or more of federal money, they have to submit a single audit by March 31st of the following fiscal year. So the next slide touches on some of the results of that audit. So we did issue an unmodified opinion on them. So what that means is the statements are accurate and reliable as of June 30, 2023. We did also issue a report on internal control and compliance, which just kind of indicates that we're not expressing an opinion on the internal controls themselves, but we do perform a walkthrough and do kind of a high-level analysis of the internal controls and didn't have anything specific to note there regarding the controls themselves. But, since the financial statements are as of June 30, 2023, we were required to disclose a material weakness, noting the timeliness of the single audit filing. So as that was due March 31st of 24, we were late on that, but we are going to remedy that for the fiscal year 2024 audit, which is great. And we had one significant deficiency related to capital assets, which is also to be remedied in fiscal year 24. So, for the next presentation, we're anticipating, no items on this slide and smooth sailing. So also just, no material non-compliance with laws, regulations, grants were noted. And just that there may be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that may exist, but were not identified by us. So overall, definitely a vast improvement from 2022. So the next slide touches on the audit communication letter. So this is a letter to council and just highlight some, positive things. There were no difficulties that we encountered during the audit, no disagreements with management about any sort of accounting principles. Fiscal year 23 was subject to GASB 96, which is a fairly comprehensive accounting regulation implementation. So any sort of subscription-based IT arrangements have to be accounted for in a different manner. So a lot of legwork went into that by the city, but there were no issues with any of those calculations or journal entries. All the estimates used were reasonable, and we identified no fraud, waste, or abuse during the fiscal year ending June 30, 23. So the next slide just kind of touches on those changes from the 22 to 23 year. So during that fiscal year ended June 30, 23, the city did change those accounting principles surrounding that GASB 96 standard. And what that kind of does is the city now on the statement of net position will show a subscription asset and a subscription liability. So as of June 30, 23, the subscription asset amount was $227,000 net of accumulated amortization, and the subscription liability amount was about $367,000 as of that June 30 date. So the next slide just touches on a couple adjustments that we made to the 22 statement. So there were just some capital project activity from previous fiscal years that were cleaned up in 21, but were also capitalized in 22, kind of in a mass cleanup. So we just backed those off. Wasn't anything major there. And then some changes within the city was we actually started to break out the economic opportunity, revenue stabilization, community development, recreation, and MAPS special revenue funds. So in prior reports, those all rolled up to the general fund. But since for the city, they are standalone budgetary funds, we properly broke those out. So now if you do look at the financial statements for 23, you'll see that also for 24, those will all be standalone funds now. So you'll see that activity broken out and reported separately. The next slide just is an excerpt from the footnotes that just sort of shows the impact of that activity. So you can see with the governmental funds section, the net impact is zero. It's just sort of allocating that fund balance, across out of the general fund and into the respective newly, presented individual funds. And just some last sort of financial highlights for the year. So the fund balance overall, increased to $17.5 million. General fund of that, was only $614. But actually the fund balance in the general fund decreased because of that prior period adjustment. So in previous years, those funds that were previously grouped were sort of increased in that fund balance, but now breaking that activity out, since it is budgeted separately, just shows a little more accurate picture of general fund. And kind of the good thing to note is that the unrestricted fund balance represents about 32% of total expenditures and 20% of the total fund balance, which just indicates that the city is not having excess unrestricted fund balance there. Any excess is restricted for different projects or activities, enhancements for the city. So that's great. Just touching on the general fund, just the standard tax revenue increase that sort of helped drive some of that activity, and just kind of touching on the unrestricted fund balance just kind of shows that those monies are kind of being invested back and being utilized to benefit the citizens. And then the revenue stabilization fund was a new major fund. So on that first governmental balance sheet that you'll see in the financial statements, those first few columns represent the major funds. So due to the ARPA grant activity being recorded in that revenue stabilization fund, it triggered a new major fund. So that's why you'll see that on that main page as a standalone entity. And then the other funds that we broke out that we touched on earlier will kind of show on the back of the statement as a combining non-major schedule. And that's really kind of all we wanted to touch on. We're on track for later this winter in December to start the fiscal year 24 audit. And we fully anticipate to have everything filed by the March deadline, and that fiscal year 2024 fully on schedule.
All right, thank you for that. Questions, council? Are there any questions, any specific questions in regards to the presentation?
I just have a quick question, or just
Yes.
a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I know we can congratulate our finance department and Christopher for bringing that forward and getting the ball rolling. I know that the city of Livingston was behind at least 3 years on the audits, and they were being delayed. So getting Livingston up to speed and getting that work done and be able to present it for tonight was a great accomplishment. I do see our new supervisor out in the audience, so welcome, Supervisor Jamie Pacheco. I do have a question, though, and I don't know how it might, in regards to the audit, I know that we do have an officer, a sergeant, in fact, that is still on payroll. Where would we find something like that? He's currently at home, he's not at work, but he's still being paid with our city funds. How would we look into that as part of an audit?
So the personnel cost will show in the fund level of the governmental fund schedules or the enterprise fund schedules, depending on where the individual, what department they work in. So for the governmental funds, it'll be broken out by function. So you'd really kind of have to kind of look to kind of the city budget for that information. For financial statement purposes, payroll and other costs all kind of roll up together on the schedules to show as either general government or public safety or public work function as a whole. So that payroll wouldn't be separated out separately per se.
All of it would be presented as part of payroll and the retirement. All of that can be found there, because my concern is that we're paying Sergeant King to sit at home and not do
Yeah, so for our perspective from the audit, we perform various procedures over, payroll and benefits year over year, do some analysis over those figures. Nothing from our testing, noted any unusual activity. But from a financial statement perspective, again, kind of all those expenditures kind of lumped together by function. If you're looking for more sort of itemized detail, it'd probably be more in the city budget or kind of internal reports, kind of reviewed on an interim basis.
Thank you for that. I just had a real big concern from many residents. Thank you.
No problem. And the last slide just has some contact info with my email. And any other questions come up from anyone in the audience or on the council, feel free to reach out at any time.
Yes, if you can hang on a minute, let me just double check with the council, see if there's any additional comments or questions.
Of course.
Seeing none, but I do believe Mr. Lopez wants to add something.
Yeah, just a comment, Mayor and Council. James, I really want to send my appreciation to you and your team. I know it was probably over a year ago, and we talked about getting us back on track, and we put a timeline together thanks to you and your team, and we were able to adhere to that timeline. So, James, I want to thank you and your group for getting us to this point. And then I also want to extend my appreciation to Happy and the rest of the finance team when it comes to getting these items back to our auditors and the specific requests that they have. It's really important that we're responsive and that we're responding to all of the questions that they have. So I want to give my appreciation to LSL, my appreciation to Happy and the finance team for getting us to this point. And as James said earlier, getting started on the fiscal year 24 audit in, I think, the next couple of months is our next plan. And the plan is to be caught up and back onto a normal schedule of getting these audits completed. And I have no doubt that we'll be able to continue that moving forward. So thank you, James, and thank you, Happy and finance team.
For sure. Yeah, we echo the same sentiment. We like to say that, we're not the IRS. As auditors, we don't come in looking to, provide unnecessary burdens or find errors. We really view ourselves as an extension, a resource for your team to answer questions throughout the year and kind of work together to meet our collective goals.
All right, well, I think I don't see any more questions or comments, so I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all of the work for everybody involved, and like Mr. Lopez said, just to trying to keep us, or just to help us catch up, and looking forward to the next update and report.
Sounds great. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Good night. All right, next we have consent agenda items. So we do have, so items on the consent calendar are considered routine or non-controversial and will be enacted by one vote unless separate action is requested by a member of the public, the city manager, or city council member. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the public, city council, or city manager request that specific items be removed. So currently, we do have items number 4, 5, 6, and 8. Item number 7 has been removed to be continued to a future agenda item. Council, is there any motions, questions in regards to the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to approve the consent.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember
Oh,
Roth.
excuse me, hold on. Let me go out for public comment real quick. Is there any citizen comments in regards to the consent agenda items? Anyone on the phone? Seeing none or hearing none, coming back into the chamber at 8:29. Is there any comments in regards to the consent agenda items? Seeing none, bringing it back to the dais at 8:29. Roll call.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto.
I just want to say one thing. I didn't get to make a comment because the motion was put out there. But I do appreciate the transparency that came before this item number 6 for the city of Livingston. And it has to do with our basic procurement process. And the question that should come to citizens of Livingston and before this council is, why did someone believe that it was okay to exceed spending authority without the approval of council? So that would have been my question. But work was done, and I believe that once they have reached their amount that council agreed on, that it should have been, the work should have been stopped and it should have been returned back to council. So again, my vote would be yes. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Yes.
Mayor Moran. Motion passes by a
Yes.
vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have discussion and potential action items. Item number 9, designation of voting delegate and voting delegate alternate for the 2024 League of California Cities Annual Conference and Expo on October 16th through the 18th, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the Cal Cities Conference is in a couple of weeks, October 16th through 18th. Typically, there are a number of resolutions that cities will be asked to vote on. This item before you tonight is to have the city council select its voting delegates and a potential alternate for that item, Mayor. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And just real quick, so as a city, if nobody's just, and then again, I don't know because we haven't gotten there yet. See if anybody's going to be able to go. We don't necessarily have to have anybody present. Is not, but if someone is available, then yes, that is the case, right? I mean, we're not obligated.
As I understand it, yes, they do have to be physically present, though, if they'd like to vote, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions, comments on this item before I go off for public comment?
Who's going?
That is part of that is why we're discussing this as part of the conversation. Has anybody made arrangements yet? Because I read an email that there was, I think Friday is the last day to register if anybody's going. All right, let me go out for public comment. Is there any citizen comments on the phone in regards to item number 9? Hearing none, bringing it back to the chamber at 8:32. Anybody in the chamber? Seeing none, bringing it back to a dais at 8:32. Council? Any other questions, comments, motions, suggestions? This is designation of voting delegate and/or alternates.
Who is our representative to the league?
That would be me. But unfortunately, I will not be in attendance for this meeting as I have other obligations to fulfill as part of the Crisis Response Stabilization Team for FEMA. So they may be deploying independent contractors such as myself to go to Florida. And that's been on my radar for the past 2 months already during the hurricane season. So I'm unavailable for this.
Council, is there anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I'd love to go, but I have a work conflict.
Thank you.
So do I.
I'm unavailable also.
So I make the motion to designate Mayor Moran.
I'm sorry, but I do work Monday through Friday in the mornings, so conflict.
And I guess we're not sending anybody.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, so there's, so officially we will not have a delegate at the conference for the League of California Cities. All right, so seeing no action, we're moving forward to the last item, item number 10, discussion and direction regarding the grants passed decision and the impact on Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor. This will be a quick one. In 2024, the Supreme Court ruled cities are no longer prohibited from enforcing anti-camping laws or to clean up housing encampments. Many cities, as a result of the Supreme Court's decision, have updated or modernized their local ordinances, allowing for flexibility given the Supreme Court's ruling. This item seeks direction on whether the council would like to direct any action from staff or the city attorney's office to look at its Muni Code, make some recommendations to adhere to the latest Supreme Court ruling regarding this item. Happy to answer any questions, Mayor. Just seeking direction on this item, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. In a way, I'm glad this came forward. Over the years, we've had issues where unhoused folks were camping along city right-of-ways and railroad tracks, and I know they're not doing anything wrong in a way, but it does make a lot of people nervous, taking their kids, and then, so I would like to see what we can do to give code enforcement and local law enforcement a little more teeth into dealing with it. Previously, you have to rely on Caltrans to issue something, and it takes 6 months. In the meantime, we're getting all these concerns. So I'd like to explore the idea of what we can do to modify what we need to give our local law enforcement authority to deal with things in a more efficient manner.
Mr. Santos, do you have an idea of how that would be possible?
So currently, the city has a camping ordinance or regulations regulating camping on public property. What we can do is do a review of the current camping ordinance to see if it's in compliance with the governor's current order relating to dealing with encampments and camping issues. And also make sure that we have in place good guidelines for how to address the removal of encampments, because there's a lot of regulations and laws which govern, storage of property and notice requirements that must be given before removing an encampment. So we can go through that and bring an item back to council on a more comprehensive update to the ordinance if necessary, or advise council that what we have on the books is sufficient.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I talked to Chris last week on this, and my biggest, what is the county of Merced doing? I know other counties have already been involved and cities are mirroring the county. Now, we would assume we would want to mirror what the county's doing and not be completely out of track, because there's things the county offers that the city of Livingston doesn't. So they need to be in conjunction or together. So I don't know if the county of Merced has even addressed this yet or not, but we need to find that out and see what they're doing and make sure we're inclusive with, if they got people that are available, come out to talk to people. What is the county doing? Other counties have done that, and I just don't know how many have approved it. I know Fresno's moved. I know Fresno City, Visalia. Okay, they're big cities. We're a little slow sometimes getting things done, and that's why I'd like to get this already done before we have a problem, because if Atwater, Turlock, somebody puts it in effect and we don't have anything, those people are going to come here. And that was my reason for bringing that up. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council, anything else?
I agree that we should be looking at other counties, not just Merced County, but Stanislaus County and all the counties. Big cities are really making their moves. San Francisco is cleaning up, which is forcing more of the impact into smaller jurisdictions into the Central Valley. So if we really want to do something comprehensive, we really need to take a bigger look at the impacts that it's coming down to Livingston, and also make provisions on how we can assist and provide resources. But I know that that's not part of what is going to be discussed tonight. But yes, please do take a look into our current ordinance to see how that can be updated so that we are prepared to make those moves rather than be progressive, not responsive to what's happening here.
Anything else? So is that more than enough direction?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we have council direction on future agenda items. All right, thank you. It's 8:41. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Good night.